Right, so we're just going to move back into some of the percussive elements.
Yeah.
And I want to boil down Fairburn system into 3 parts to burn into your mind. Okay. There's the subterfuge element. So this is where, if you hold the pad up, this is where you use deception in advance of the strike. So you will be talking, you will be showing papers, you will be feigning illness, you will be using some degree of trust-led distraction to get as close as you can before you fulfill a technique. So we've got edge of hand blows and we're dropping body weight into them. We're smashing him. I'm not using the hinge of my elbow, all of my mass, all of it is crashing into him. It's important, remember the athletic posture, all of me, but this is coming from subterfuge first. So I'm being nice, I'm being calm, I'm being ill, I'm being afraid, I'm being arrested. You fucking smashing him to bits. Subterfuge. The second part, or second type, is assault. So he's looking over there, he has no idea what's going on. I need to, on the rapid, need to fuck off over there, and he's but a mere blip in the direction of travel that I need to go through. So I need to mow through him. So he doesn't know about this assault until I go,
Oh.
and I'm gone. Assault dog. If I get animal cruelty complaints,
Do it again. Yeah, do it again. Because I felt bad too.
right. To reiterate, part 2 is assault. He's looking the other way. He doesn't know the attack's happening. I'm moving through him at speed. It's a very underlooked bit of combatives, being able to hit on the run. Imagine you've come home and someone's attacking your wife, your child, your mum, your nan, your neighbour. You're not going to walk up and fight. You're going to be like, you're going to be on him and out. So that's ambush. So we've got subterfuge, bang, bang, bang. Assault, you are literally going to eviscerate him. And then you've got combat, which is, we won't demonstrate now, but this is where both of us are aware that a fight is happening. And this might be, he's throwing shots. Boom, boom. Understand? So there's 3 ways to skin, even things as basic as edge of hand blows, like so. I can use them to be sneaky, I can use them on the assault, and I can use them mid-fight. This is very, very important. So what I want you to do is I want you to get into 2 lines with the padman at either end. I want you to try 3 things. I want you to try, there's 2 things, sorry. I'll get you to do from subterfuge, being calm, being nice, being ill, coughing, sneezing, whatever, into these strikes. When you're doing edge of hand blow, you notice I'm stepping, I'm smashing. I can use downward, across, double. I'm just crushing what's ever in my way. Kidneys, heads, wrists, fucking face, whatever I can do. Finishing the job and getting gone. So try 1 at subterfuge, starting all meek, and start 1 at a ballistic run-up. Get into 2 lines, get back on to the Fairburn system of using the knife. For those of you who are unaware, this is a Fairburn Sykes pattern fighting knife. Very poorly named because it's a really shit knife for fighting with. This is not particularly a knife that's useful for fighting. This is a knife useful for fighting. If you're going to have a fight, I'd much rather have a proper chopping knife. Main purpose of this tool is sentry elimination. Sentry elimination is what this is designed to do. To have a very specific length so that when it does penetrate, and it's predominantly torso based stabbing, it's always proximate to the aorta. So it's always something that can nick a decent arterial pathway. So you notice that the stab comes down here, from underneath, it's always got a route to market. That's a very corporate way of saying this, isn't it? There's a route to market to the heart. So it's predominantly a sentry elimination tool. It's designed to stab people that aren't paying attention and do so quietly. And It's rather ubiquitous in the range of people that this is issued to. Unlike many fighting knives, not much attention is paid to fighting knives in the military because there's not a huge need for it for the average person. But these knives, you've got them given to SOE agents, so people that are doing intelligence work, where things that go bang and boom mean that people find all your gear, find your stuff, torture and kill you, which is bad. You also see them with auxiliary units, so these are the stay behind units. So under the assumption that the Nazis would invade, you'd have leave behind units. They had underground bunkers, they're still all around the country, and their job was to cause merry mayhem. So their job was to wait for the Nazis to go past, blow up planes, fuel, cause havoc, giving Britain essentially time to set up a new defensive line. And the defensive lines went London, Worcester, into the north, eventually to Scotland, eventually everyone with money fucks off to Canada. Always the plan, because Canada's lovely. So you've got auxiliary units using these, you've got commando units using these, and you've got iterations of commando units, so long range desert patrol and things like that. So you've got all manner of special and really non-special forces using this. You think this is a ubiquitous fighting weapon. I also think that a lot of the usage of this is confidence instilling, in that you can still get the job done if things go wrong, if things break. It's very unlikely you would need to use it, but the idea that you could, and the very little expense needed to train with things like this is very good for the mind. It's a good way to say, I am the tool, and if the rifle fails and the pistol fails and this fails and armed fails, I've always got something, I've always got a recourse to action. So it's a very, very good, very, very important fighting tool. As you can see, whilst it does have two sharpened edges, it does not cut particularly well. But what it does do particularly well is slice. So a knife like this doesn't carry much weight, so it cannot particularly chop well. But what it does do is slice. So a difference between a slice and a chop is a slice makes contact and the cutting action happens when the knife is drawn. So if you imagine against hands, against the face, against the neck, it's the placement and the draw that gets the cut, very much like a Japanese sword. A Japanese sword is terrible at cutting in a chop. You use it in an elliptical fashion, and it slices, and it slices. It's a slicing tool. Predominantly though, anyone that picks it up feels that this is intuitively a stabbing weapon. You pick it up and it says, stab! Traditional ways to hold it is with the thumb and the forefinger. Typically you'd have the thumb against the guard here, although you also have people doing it here. One of the main reasons is good edge alignment. If I know my thumb is here and my initial four knuckles are there, I know precisely where the slicing element of my blade is. If I hold it in a hammer grip, I have no real idea where that slicing action is. And if any of you ever cut anything, and it's important to try, cut something that's got a bit of resistance, you will find very often if you don't have that knuckle discipline, you'll start to use the flat of the blade. You think you won't, but you will. You will use the flat. With the thumb, very hard for you to use the flat. So we're going to go through Fairbairn's knife work, and it's predominantly principle led. So there's not a huge amount of techniques to it, but there are principles. I'm going to start backwards and start against the thing I said. We're going to start with knife fighting, and then we're going to move into sentry elimination drills. But in reality, the knife fighting's fun, so we're going to spend more time doing that, but it's the least likely outcome to happen with this. If you're having to resort for that, you've done many things wrong. So the grip is like so. You want to maintain tension here, and this is support. This is support. This is nuance. These three bottom fingers, this is nuance. And Fairbairn encourages you to get used to manipulating your knife, playing with the knife. You need to get used to, how does it feel? Get used to doing it in the dark, in terrain. You need to get a feel for your personal weapon, because your Fairbairn knife might be different. I've got a reader of one of my books. He did his All Arms Commando course, although he's a RLC. This is what he was issued with, which is markedly different to my one, and it feels very different. And many marks and models will feel and look very, very different. There you go. Forefinger and thumb, like so. Wrapping here. The principles of using Fairbairn's knife. Cuts are predominantly arterial, and so the main targets are the inner wrist, the inner elbow, along the carotid areas, into the heart, and also strangely, and this is the weird one that stands out for Fairbairn, into the navel, so above the belly button. all of them but the navel make sense, but where the navel comes into its own and where it makes sense from a World War II perspective is that it's an uncovered area, unencumbered by webbing, ammunition, boxes. It's an area here which is typically left open in older style uniforms. I've got all my gear here, I've got some chest rig on here. What I don't have in this scenario, in this situation, is plate. So whilst it's not arterial, that makes sense because there's nothing in the way to stop it going in. That makes sense? Mm-hmm. But predominantly the cuts here, 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 and naturally thrusts here. And he spends a lot of his time in his book talking about the anatomical bleed out times, but you don't really need to know that. You know, it's something, it's of interest, but it's either going to work or it doesn't. And the depth of your cut and the depth of your slice will largely dictate that, but also their size, their build, their heart rate. There's many factors, so you can't really take an accurate baseline. But what we're going to look at is the principle-based instruction, and this is very important for World War II. Not many techniques, but principles that you can remember very easily. So, holding the knife, like so. Blade is typically parallel to the ground, so your blade is flat, like so. And you take essentially an athletic posture. So an important thing to think about, posture, I'm hip firing Thompson submachine gun. I'm in an athletic posture. I'm firing the pistol. I'm in an athletic posture. I'm boxing, I'm in an athletic posture. Everything comes, and you notice that the heels are somewhat raised off the ground, and I am on the track. So I can move into a person with alacrity, with speed. So everything, every provable fighting system in the world, wrestling, boxing, athletic stance, being able to move in and out. What's good about the Fairburn system, unlike many other nice systems, is it factors into account that you could be stabbed too. So it's quite good at stabbing someone else and not being stabbed, which is a very useful thing to have. And again, that comes from athletics, comes from boxing, wrestling, throwing and not being thrown, hitting and not being hit. The not being hit, the not being stabbed is as important as doing the stabbing. So you've got this slightly lowered athletic stance, and you've got the blade here, and you've got this hand somewhat out the way. Okay, it still can do active things, but if you're in a range, if I could borrow you for a second, I don't need this hand to encumber this blade. This blade is the thing I need. Okay, so we've got this position. Just go back a second. You're fine. Main principles, and we're going to start with this, is in the initial phases of the fight, which are somewhat longer range, if I've pulled the knife and I'm facing the threat, it means I've been rumbled, so the fight is at some degree of range. I'm here. And the principles are this: cutting at the hands or the eyes. That's it. So if I borrow Tom, and me and Tom are in combat and Tom's drawing his knife, my job is to cut at his hands and to cut at his eyes. And typically we're going palm down and palm up, and that's how we get good discipline on this, or we go over the top and slice. But if you think about it as a slicing action, it's very important to think the coming back is as important as the going out. Because I'm not going to cut you, Tom, but I will go out to Tom's hand, but the thing that disables Tom's hand is the fact that I've gone rip. I've gone place and rip, place and rip. I don't have a chopping machete style knife that I can snap cut. It's not going to happen. If I do that to Tom's hand, I could do that, you know, that's not going to cut. That's not going to cut, or it will cut in a very minor way. So we want a disabling slice. So left, right, down. And it's done to the hands and face. And Fairburn says that you and the knife should always be moving. So here, I move and the knife moves. Knife, knife, knife. So I've gone hands, hands, face. The combinations are completely situation dependent. So I tend to break it into H's and F's. Hand, 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 face. Hand, face, hand. Face, face, hand. You can mix this as much as you like, but it's important that me and the knife are always moving. We're always in flux. Even if I'm out of distance, the knife is moving. I'm moving. I'm moving in an athletic way. Hands, eyes. Now you notice that I'm somewhat at an extreme range here, because if I fuck up, Tom's gonna stab me. So whilst I'm in this exploratory range, taking hands, taking eyes, these are important. We use this as the gateway drug for the lunge, and it's a deep penetrative fencing style lunge. Why is that? Because ideally I've stabbed Tom and not been stabbed.
Yeah.
That's the job. So I've gone hands, eyes, stab, and I'm back. Because if I stab and celebrate my stab, a dead man can kill me. Tom could be dead and not know it yet. His life force could be seeping out of him. He can still kill me. So I'm moving, I'm athletic, knuckles down, knuckles up, and we're cutting. As soon as I spot the chance for a lunge, I take it, but importantly, I withdraw, because the effect of that arterial stab could be 7 seconds, could be 20 seconds. 20 seconds is still too long to be stabbed. So what I want you to do is grab a foamy with a partner, get used to the athletic stance, get used to the thumb on here, get used to you always moving, get used to slice, slice, hands, face, lunge. Give that a go.
Nice. Remember, when you hit the body, get out as quick as you can, because a dead man can still kill you. Nice. Sit behind the knife. That's the way. Thank you.
I have an inferior weapon to his superior weapon. Well, I'm obviously going to die in this instance. So the idea, just stand here. So if you just hold it at port arms, right. So another good reason to get into the habit of hands, eyes, chest is that if there is a weapon disparity, remember, a lot of the people doing this, I'm dressed as a normal civvy. I'm a Latvian typist. Right? I've got this blade concealed somewhere. So my job is to do him. If I immediately start going for chest and he starts moving back, I might kill him, but there's going to be whiz bangs. Boom, 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 boom. If he's not stupid, his finger's going to be off the trigger. So if I get in the habit of boom, that hand is going to move rapid off that trigger. So if I get into this hands, eyes, chest, that's unlikely to go boom, because the hand very, very quickly releases things it's hold with even light trauma. Even light trauma takes the hand. All tendons, it's got very little resistance. So if you are rapid, you are...
I like the way you pin my hand.
So my job is to take your hand, do you in. But I do not want in any way for you to make that go boom.
So my friends turn up.
Yeah, if it's a bolt action, even better. You know, MP40, hardly anyone's walking around with a machine gun that's ready to go. Submachine gun, ain't gonna happen. You be a dickhead. Remember those Sten guns? Just breathe on it. You breathe on it and it declares jihad. So with this, the principle of hands, eyes. Also, if I didn't go for his hands but just went for his eyes, it's such a visceral reaction, he's unlikely to think about orientating the rifle. As soon as that happens, he's thinking, fuck my eyes. Even if I haven't managed to hit his eyes. So if he's asked for papers and I'm showing papers here, whoop, see what's happened? He's exposed his chest. He hasn't thought about this. Off balance. Boom! Rip it. done. This makes sense? Yeah. So whilst we're knife fencing now, because it's fun and it's a laugh, this is very unlikely to have weapon parity, to have weapons that are equal. This only happens in movies. Either you're the guy that's got the shit weapon against the good weapon, or if you're lucky, he's got no weapon and you've got a good weapon. You're either at an advantage or a disadvantage. You're very, very rarely at parity. You also got to think that it might be your knife against his spade. It might be there are lots of different things that could happen. But if you just remember hands, eyes, chest, whether he's got a fucking Russian spade, you can take the hand, take the eyes, take the chest. If he's got a machine gun, a submachine gun, you can stop that going boom, get in. If I was to just think about stabbing, even if I don't get shot, shots will be fired. Shots being fired in these scenarios is as bad as me being shot. So it might have taken a small unit 7 weeks to get loads of intelligence and photographs and files and all sorts of shit. And because I've been a knob and allowed that to go boom, every wanker in 10 kilometres is going to come running. So just that principle. You know, you've got 4 hours to learn this shit and not fuck it up. Hands, eyes, chest. Hands, eyes, chest. Whether he's got a Tommy gun, a spade, he's got fuck all, doesn't matter. That's why it's principle-orientated combat. Very, very important. Just burn that into your mind that you don't have time to learn these things. What I do need to learn is edge discipline. What will slice and what will not. If you don't have good edge discipline and you hit with the flat, his hand will take it. Bam, 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 bam. I need to know what the slicey bit is and what the stabby bit is. Sounds stupid, but it's important. You need to understand what the benefits are. But understand that you are not chopping his hand. I'm not chopping it. I don't have a Chinese meat cleaver. I'm slicing that hand. So I want to rip through these tendons. Even if I don't get his eyes are actually hard to hit. I don't really give a fuck about hitting his eyes, but if I go for it, he fucking moves. And he leaves me this. Against a firearm, this is where, unlike blade on blade, compression and distance is your friend. So blade on blade, there's no point in me staying in this kill box, shit for all parties. If I've taken his finger off the boomstick, I still want to be on him until he's done. This is forward pressure, and that's where that athletic stance allows me to just move him. If I didn't have an athletic stance, or I was too grounded, or my heels were on the floor, it's hard, I can't walk forward. But in an athletic stance, boom, 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 you are moving at speed. It's an important thing. That's just an important principle to burn into your minds about why hands and eyes are important, because most of the time this is against a better tool, and your advantage is perception. Your advantage is you are, a coughing here. You are deceiving, you are showing papers, you are being helpless, you're being mentally ill, you are being any number of things. You are not understanding the language, that's his that. And then you're taking it, that's the guile is important. So you need trickery, you need surprise, you need to be accurate. Accuracy is important. That's why in Fairbairn's book, he doesn't talk about what to do with the knife, but he tells you where to put it. That's the important thing, where to put it. Slice here, slice there, slice here, stab there. And because people don't have much on, if you need to, stab there. And I saw all of you, and you've all got different levels of training and backgrounds, but I wouldn't say any of you are full-time knife fighters. You'll pick it up fast, boom, rapid. That's all you need. That's all you need for this stuff. So we're going to move now into some of the Sentry elimination things. We're going to all stab Murdoch. This is important. To get the feel of what penetration and over-penetration look like and feel like. Murdoch's got a jacket on, which is not too dissimilar to what a battle dress jacket would have been like. Thick fucking wool. If it's wet, it's basically steel. And it itches like a camel's arsehole. It's a bastard. Me and Chris were doing it. So what I want you to do, I want you to form a line, I want you to pick up the Fairbairn knife, I want you to get a feel for it here, and I want you to get used to cuts to the head will fall off, put the head back on, cuts to the eyes, go across this masking tape line, cuts to the eyes, pricking stab, Get used to what that feels like, and also do it wrong. Press in and feel how much commitment there is there and how much time it might take to get back to safety. I can go safe. If I go, even if I try and do that at speed, I've stayed in the danger, safe. Does that make sense? Yeah. If you're practicing knife, get used to things that penetrate. Most people, when they practice, cannot do this. This is why these foam knives are very good, because you get the full depression, because that's how it works. Predominant usage of the knife. In fact, I'm going to borrow you. Murdoch can have the day off. Right, now. Predominant use of the Fairbairn Sykes fighting knife is Sentry elimination. Quiet Sentry elimination. If he screams, we're fucked. We don't want to scream. The bit that people neglect is the approach to the Sentry elimination. They like the stabby bit, they don't like the walkie bit. The walkie bit's important. Use the edge of your foot and then the flat of your foot. The edge of your foot and the flat. And you move very quiet. And you need to get low. You need a low profile. The low profile is not necessarily for him. The low profile is if there's someone a couple of 100 yards away. I don't want to be. I want to be as small a silhouette, a shape, a horizon as possible. I don't want to be very small. I want to be very quiet. There's a couple of methods to do this. So the original method would be to place the hands over the mouth and nose as much as possible, like so, to expose the throat. Bear in mind that I'm always moving, so I'm not staying here. His head needs to be beyond his arse completely. He needs to be on the move. You're punching in and cutting out and bringing down quiet. This is important. The down quietly is something not many people pay attention to, but if he goes down with a thud and he's got jangly gear on, he's got no need to be stealthy because he's a proper soldier, so he can have his janglies on. Yeah. Whereas I'm not a proper soldier. You know, in this instance, you're an intelligent person. You don't have janglies. Get back up. So the first method is to be slow. The British auxiliary units, which are the stay-at-home commandos, were also told in forested environments to grab a wodge of moss or dirt. Big wodge of moss. Whop! Brilliant soundproofing. Brilliant soundproofing. Sounds ridiculous, but makes a lot of sense. Makes a lot of sense. But importantly, the prowling aspect, and they call it that, is edge of foot. Edge of foot. Get very, very close, like a lion has to do. Wrap, bring off balance. And notice that I crush the back of his head into my arm. There is no gap. I'm moving. I'm maintaining. Here. This is important. A secondary method, not my favourite but taught, is to weave the hand thus, like so, and expose. Some of the rationale behind this is people biting, but people very rarely instinctively bite, and it's hard to start to bite. You start to bite now, and it's much harder to bite when he's dead.
Yeah.
There's also a risk, I feel, of me fucking up and stabbing my own artery. So whilst this is taught, and Fairbairn does show this, it's not my favourite. But I think, as in all things, Fairbairn is quite practical in that do the thing that feels comfortable for you. People have got different shaped hands. There are different shaped people that you might need to do this to. But me personally, there is this method: bring off balance, punch in, push out, maintain bodily control. You notice my bodily control of him isn't just his head, it's his entire body. Then I take the knee. I do a Jon Snow. I take the knee. Other methods that were taught were into the kidney. The kidneys is massive shock to the system. So if you fuck up your prowl and you go snap, I can't lunge at this. If I'm not close enough, I'm not close enough. End off. So what I might need to do is do this at quick time. Doing it this quick time means that I'm at a distance. So this could be a run. I could run into him. So my run into him could be. So if I'm doing it on the quick time, that's what I might do, because I might need to do this fast and dirty. So it's kidney, grip, business as usual. Make sense?
Yeah.
Or I've made a bit of a snap, crackle, pop. His turn. Done. And when you practice this in your pairs, I want you to get a feel for how I want the blade to be placed properly. You're not going to hurt him. By now your fence with him, they're bendy. get used to what that feels like, and control the descent. Make sense? Attainable stuff. Hands, eyes, chest. Don't get stabbed. And doing it quietly. You don't need to do too many reps of it to get the idea. You know, this is something that you should be gettable. It's designed to be gettable. Another important but overlooked facet of this is being able to draw it cogently. So, for example, Tom, I'll borrow you. Just check. Right. So, we've gone through the examples of we are both aware that there is a fight on. Tom is drawn, and now whether there is weapon disparity or parity, we know what we can do. Hands, eyes, chest, don't get stabbed. This is an important principle. Working away. Don't worry, I'm keeping the sheath on. We've learnt the principles that if we're to do the job that this is designed to do, we must not neglect being able to move quietly. The silence is the most important facet, and we must be able to do this efficiently and remain silent for as long as we can. That's an principle too. When it's an ambush, quietness is king. Yeah, and accuracy in all aspects of using the blade is important. The human body is robust. People can be stabbed 37 times and not die. Millimeter to the left, doesn't die. Millimeter to the right, doesn't die. Fortuna is a bitch. So accuracy is very, very important. Now, there are some instances where the confrontation occurs where there is no time for me to apply the fencing discipline of hands, eyes, chest. And this will be in an area where we will be conversing. Or it may be that at this range, or it may be that he is arresting me. So it could be arresting my movement. His interrogations become too robust. I know that I'm in a shit situation, I need to act on it. But I can't go from here and go, hands, eyes, blah. It's not going to work. Not going to work. So we need to be able to get used to, just stay exactly where we are. We need to be able to get used to orientating the blade on threat quickly, which means being able to draw and have him at threat rapid. So it's very important, and Fairbairn talks about having the blade as a very personal thing. Parachute regiment used to have it on their leg. Yeah. Other people, organisations, had it at the bottom of their leg. Other people had it on the waistband. You can have it as a covert carry. If you're masquerading as a teacher or a Latvian typist, you might have it inside a blazer jacket. You might have it, there's going to be lots of different places. And Fairbairn's very, very keen that people practice wherever they keep it, being able to put the person immediately on point. Because if he's arresting me, manhandling me, attacking me, and he comes close, there is no way that he can engage without this being deadly levels of force. If I try and draw it out, this weapon is no longer a major threat. It's still a threat, but there's a fight over it. Whereas if he starts to arrest, and I've got this here, notice that it's still on my body. I don't need to use my arm power to thrust. I can move into Tom. I can just move straight into him and he is skewered, he's dead. I shouldn't neglect my accuracy, so I should be able to go, from here into a heart region, pretty easy, or into centre mass. This is an important skill to have. So being able to draw and orientate from an inside pocket, from a sleeve, from a belt, from a leg, you can see, it's not rocket science, it's finding the shortest possible route between where this sheathed blade is and where he is, so that it's easy and efficient for me to do the business, and it's hard and awkward for him to close, especially if he's not sussed that I'm going to resist. If he's not sussed that I'm going to resist, even if he had a rifle, he might take one hand off to shoulder move. He might be just moving, manipulating me. I can move. So he's not likely to be thinking of that. He's not going to be able to react in time fast enough before he's dead. Still need to do this fast, but being able to orientate the blade on target from wherever you keep it. So part of the drill we'll be doing now is trying different holding methods. So inside sleeve, how do I go from inside sleeve to here? How do I go outside leg to here? Yeah, these are all important. How do I go belt here? These are all important skills to have if the balloon goes up, if it goes bad. I've got that. Fairbairn's close face-to-face method, before, this is quite simple. It's that, obviously I can go, standard, right? But it may be that there's a bit more of a tussle to it, a bit more of a fight to it. In which case, I will achieve a single chancery, and he drives the knife, so it could be femoral, groin, or guts, and it shanks upwards, like so. A good reason that is a femoral is quite hard to defend. If I go for Tom's chest, his hands are likely to be where his chest is. Yeah, if I'm here and go, whoa, yeah, that curvature motion is very hard to defend against. Even if we look at modern self-protection knife defense, if you bar the mark, you bar it here, you know, modern self-defense protection systems are designed against relatively shallow stabs. If I start to loop that, if I start to have this type of motion, I circumvent most modern and historical and natural ways to grab the knife. Even if Tom goes for 2 hands on one, yeah, 2 hands on one, I'm still coming up. I'm still, because I'm reaping this, 2 hands can't really defend it. There's lots of threat here, and that's me just nicely, you know, you are taking this through with as much force as your body can do. When you do it with the foam is, go for it, blitz it. I'm not doing it obviously with this because
okay.
I don't know how strong this is compared to that.
I don't know how strong my ribs are, yeah.
But importantly, so get back to the point, it's being able to draw it and getting someone on point fast. But you're not threatening. This is not a threatening system. This is not no. This is no. You are in the person pretty rapid. You get used to doing that from different aspects, and then get used to the action of, once you've got to a tussle, let's do this from a zombie position, so we walk into each other blindfolded. Boom. It's being able to achieve, take him off balance. Yeah, it's important, percussive. It's not nice, I'm not like, come hither child, suckle from mine breast. Yeah, I am bashing him here. And then this hooking motion. And get used to adding a bit of resistance. So the guy will try and fight you a little bit. Get used to how that can get through. And it does. It gets through a lot faster than a traditional sewing machine. Just that mobility of the elbow. Femoral, gut, heart, throat potentially. You know, it could be if Tom's scooted back a little bit with his legs, you know, come into a dangerous place. You get the idea? This is a catch-all because anything that gets in the way of it, if Tom closes body to body, it's going to go lower. If Tom scoots outwards, it's got more of a chance of going into the eyes, throat, neck, whatever.
And you've got your hand as the
Yeah.
daisy finder.
So in the Fairburn system for this, I don't need to learn many close range fancy knife fighting techniques because my catch-all doesn't care. Tom comes close, it works. Tom goes far, it works because I've allowed for distance. This natural motion goes far away and close at the same time. Make sense? So try it with your foamy, get used to putting it on point, get used to the pull, snap down and thrust. All right, we're going to move into some of the more ballistic takedown elements. We'll recap some of the unarmed from yesterday and we'll move into getting a bit of grappling in there, grappling a la Fairburn. Now the important thing about grappling in this system is it's a means to an end. The grappling is either a means to an end to access a weapon, to prevent him accessing a weapon, or to make a concussive landing. So whilst we are grappling, the aim is to throw you hard enough that you are knocked down or you are dazed enough that you can finish by dancing on their face. It's a very important thing that we're not there to wrestle because much of the work that's needed for this gutter fighting system relies on speed, and often the objective isn't killing a man, it's blowing something up, stealing a thing, doing a thing. Fighting people is the least useful thing you could be doing most of the time. So we're going to look at some of the more ballistic level takedowns, grapples. Tom, I'll borrow you because you're used to falling. Right, first thing we're going to look at is what's known as the cross hock takedown, and it's very simple and you've all done variations of this before. A hock is essentially a slang word for your thigh, okay? And the cross hock takedown is essentially a variety of iterations of a leg whip, right? So, and we're going to show some entry systems for it, but first, Tom, if you just move forward towards me. So mechanically, what is important for a cross hock takedown to happen is that Tom should not and cannot be balanced. So therefore there is always a degree of push and pull. If I try and cross hock Tom without him being off balance, I am more off balance than Tom. I must therefore push pull or break structure allowing me to do this. I must break his structure. So we're going to start with a very simple cross hock takedown, and it's this. We're going to use a chin jab strike. When Tom goes to strike at me, just use your fist, I am going to move to the outside. I'm going to chin jab to the full extension and then cross hock. So I'm moving in fluidly. Boom. I'm going to take this through, cross hock. And then I can remain here in control of the situation. From here, I can use edge of hand blows to the back of the neck. I can boot to the head, stamp to the head. There's a Bronco kick. I don't like it, but the Bronco kick is both feet planted into Tom. I don't like it because it allows me to fall over. Imagine he's got backpack, he's got Bergen, he's got all sorts of ammo patches and shit. He's a bumpy surface. If I jump on him with 2 feet, I might fall over. It's much easier for me to kick his head in. But anyway, Tom, if you stand up, it's a ballistic entry system. So as the punch comes in, whoop, I've taken his face with this hand. Yeah, I've driven it back, and when the structure is broken, when the head goes beyond the arse, that's when the cross hock happens. Have a couple of goes where you go to full fruition on the ground, and then just practice getting to what we call the Kazushi point. The balance is broken, you know you can fulfill this technique. You don't need to be always getting up again. Try a few to full fruition. When you're feeling ready, get used to dealing with the punch at speed. You know, you get the idea that me just parrying out the way and jamming in this chin jab, driving, bang, knee drop, kick, whatever you want to do. Simple cross hock takedown. Give that one a go, and one more. We'll give one more a go. Okay? In fact, I'll just do a small variation to start with. So we're doing the same thing. We're going to burst, but now we're going to use a yoke of hand blow. So we're going to use this bit here. So we're going to strike in on the throat as we do this. So it's a strike, not a grab. I'm not grabbing to seize. I'm striking with the yoke of the hand. Same fulfillment. But the most important thing is to not get hit. So this will often come if he's spotted me, I've spotted him, and I need to deal with him fast. Fucking whomp! Yeah, I'm going to mash into him as fast as I possibly can. Then fulfill this takedown. But his balance must be broken. You must have a broken structure. So, other variation of the cross hock takedown. We've started the fight and he's beating me. I am losing at this juncture, and I know I am losing. So what we're going to do, we're going to do the leverage guard that we did before. So when the next shot comes in, we're going to burst and we're going to wrap and we're going to do our cross hock from here. So I've secured his strongest, best hand, the hand that's most likely to grab at his or my weapons. So I've locked this here. I've jammed this in and I've taken his back of his head beyond his arse. And again, I've used this as the tripping point. Important. His skull should take the impact on the ground, not his back. So unlike judo, I'm not looking for an ippon, I'm looking for taking his consciousness, maybe taking his life, depending on the surface. But his head, I'm being gentle now, will hit the floor. Okay? You want to maintain, in this version, as much of a lock as you possibly can, without sacrificing the ballistic nature of the throw. So if he slips out because you've just bowled him over, fine. If you're controlling the descent a little bit more, maintain that. And then again, you can finish with what you need to do from there. So just stand back up. So we're covering, we're just taking shots. Shit. Right, I've burst through. Single overhook. Because you can see Tom is armed here. He may realise that, shit, I got my knife while I'm in this stupid fight. Yep, so I don't want him to be able to access that. So as soon as I've hinched that in, I'm going to smash his balance here. Cross up takedown. Like before, try a couple where you take it to completion. Try a couple where you just get to the point of the balance breaking. But always target the head to the floor. I want that to bounce off the floor first. It's a very important thing. Again. So you may find your position in these grapples where Tom has gone for an initial right hand and I've covered that he's going to go through the left hand. So what I'm going to do is block the first rounding punch, the second rounding punch I'm going to burst through, because now I'm going to do a hip toss. Okay, so I've stepped my hip fully across, so I'm sending him over this way. So I really am wheeling him down. I'm not doing a half hip, so I'm not placing myself just adjacent. I'm literally sticking my bum through the gap. So when he goes over, I won't fulfill it, but you get the idea. So I take him completely over in this instance, whilst maintaining control, a degree of control, over his lightly strongest arm, which is his right arm. So to summarize with this one, Tom's come for a big right hand, fuck, and I've burst through. Here, I've got to this position which would feel natural for a headlock or something of that ilk. I've stepped across, and now I can lift and fulfill. You ready to land? Yeah. What have I maintained control of? Arm, right hand. Bang, bang, or whatever. Yeah. Whatever you want to do. But again, this is a oh shit cover. I've taken a big shot. I've taken another big shot. I don't want to take any more of these. So I'm going to land the throw. So we'll take it to the point of balance break. Big shot, big shot. You notice I've stepped forward. I've completely shot this through. I've gripped this like my life depends on it, because it might do. This is likely the hand he shoots with, the hand he stabs with. Anything he's ever been good at in his life, he probably does with this hand. My hip is completely out as I throw Tom down. Do a couple where you throw, and then just take it to the point of balance breaking like so. Sometimes this happens. Now, unfortunately, he's got good control of the right arm, but Tom is armed, and you've got to assume that everyone is armed. Now, what we need to do is take Tom's attention away from stabbing. So, maintain control of the lightly strongest and most powerful arm, and the hand that's most used to getting a weapon. This hand, place on his eyes, and then as you stand up, you use this downward pressure to allow you to stand.
I like that.
So you're using Tom and his head as the way to get up. But you're putting your weight and pressure on Tom's eyes, and you're using that to lift yourself up.
Yeah, I like that.
But you don't want to maintain attached here forever. So if you're going to pop back up, which you should, you're going to use that, and you're going to push off him to stand up and get going.
I see, so I can gently use that.
Yeah.
And even then it gave me time for a quick grab.
Yeah, exactly.
Be nice.
But you don't want to be nasty about it. Those fingers into the eyes, that skull into the floor.
Yes.
You want his mind preoccupied by that.
Yes.
Not thinking of that.
Yep.
Yep.
Distracted.
Yeah. As soon as fingers are on eyes, his hand will come to move your hand, not to his knife.
Good point. Very good point.
Yeah.
Thank you.
So if that happens, just bear that in mind. Alright, next one. Nice and easy. Bit of a flashy move, but it's fun. So, me and Tom, we found ourselves in what is known in the trade as a fucked up tangle. We've got to, we are fighting, we're grappling, is nasty. What we're going to do is, we're going to maintain our base at all times, regardless, stay on balance. This is important. More than any other throw, any other technique, don't put yourself off balance to try and grab something. You need to be based. Tom's a grappler, his base is strong. There we go. So we're going to make sure this happens. What we're going to do is we've got this arm wrestle here, which happens a lot because two humans trying to push, pull, drag, bite, kick, knee. This is how most people end up fighting if a clean knockout hasn't happened. And clean knockouts don't happen a lot. They're not very common. What I'm going to do is I'm going to move my way to wrist control. And all I'm going to do, and it's a bit flashy, is I'm going to get a 2-on-1. So I'm going to get two hands on one. What's important about the arm that I'm holding? It's his right arm, it's his dominant arm, so it's the arm that's likely to be good with weapons, good at anything else. And all I'm going to do, I'm going to do it super slow, but you do this very ballistically, is I'm going to launch this around. Oh, knee, edge of hand blow, whatever I want to do. But it's important, you need to be able to pull this off from shitty grapples. Biting, pulling, driving. Right, I've got 2-on-1. And I'm going to see my head. Note my head is applying pressure to Tom. I'm still wrestling. Yeah, still wrestling. My head is applying pressure. What I'm going to do when I feel the moment's right, this causes a lot of havoc to this, to this, to this. It brings him down pretty easy for edge of hand blow to the neck, knee to the face, just driving his head down. There's all manner of nasties that come from that.
And you step in anti-clockwise?
Pardon?
As in when you have the arms?
Yeah, so I'll do it super slow. I am going, so I've achieved 2 on 1. This is important because without 2 on 1, I won't be able to get this rise.
Yeah.
1 on 1, Tom's going to resist it.
Yeah.
2 on 1, you notice I straighten it as well.
Yeah.
See this? So I make it like a bar, so I can swing it like a bar. See my head?
Yeah.
Here. I'll go underneath, down, and I move my way out. It might be from here.
Yeah.
It's fancy, but it can work because it's an unexpected move.
Yeah.
But I want you to start this from an honest wrestle. Now, I want this to be honest. When you feel it's right, get this. I've achieved one thing. I've achieved another thing. We're still wrestling. There. Now we're up. Bang, bang, bang. Knife, stab. Understand? Treat it as an honest wrestle. You don't have to go all out, but resist, man. Fight. Alright, so we're going to look at what is today known as happening, habitual acts of physical violence. How normal people do normal attacks. So we're going to start with a couple of different options. So first of these is that Tom is going to be playing two-handed strangle. And important to remember is that these are never static. They're nearly always driving me to the floor or against a wall. You don't stand in infinity space like the Matrix. It will always be driving me to some outcome. It's hard to strangle a man in open. It's easy to strangle a man when his back's against the wall. But think about how small some environments can be. Train carriages, cars, spas, all sorts of stuff. They can be quite hard. So what we're going to do, I'm being strangled. I'm going to take my hands here. I'm going to use an inverted style chin jab. So I'm going to strike across his head here. Okay, so I'm going to strike across his face. I'm going to step and shoot up, use a chop against the bend here. So I'm take both down, and then I repeatedly hack, hack, hack until I can grab and knee. I'm hacking because I want his arms to compress. I don't want him punching, I don't want him grappling, I just want to smash his arms in to make that happen. When that happens, he's got very little offense. I can grab, bang, I can smash my knee into his knee, knee into his thigh, knee into his groin. So the strangle comes on, I take this across the face. Also, you notice, I'll invert it for the guys. I've now relieved one artery here, so I've got oxygenated blood that can come back to me. Yeah. Being able then to chop at these arms breaks it. Even if it doesn't remove his hands, it bends his arms, so keep strong. I won't chop. As soon as that is bent, the pressure is no longer there. I smash, smash, smash. I keep the pressure on him. When he's turtled, I grab viciously, boom, the knee goes in. So that's one simple hap V. Second simple hap V will be where I've been restrained by bear hug. So he's trapped me around the waist, but the arms are over, like so. And this can happen. This typically happens in multiple scenarios. One-on-one fights don't really end like this, start like this, but he might grab me so others can finish the job. So what we're going to do is, again, this inverted shot. We're going to go over to grab a lump of face. You see? So I've struck, but the main thing is I want fingers in these eyes. I'm going to turn his head, and then I've got a runway for this shot here. Bang! Like so, and I can chisel this right between his ear, and I can take this as far as I like. I can repeat this technique very, very easily. So I'm in here. Tom's going to be moving me. He's going to be dragging me. This is going to be shit. So first, I need to smash down. Grab a lump of nose or eye and turn his head. That gives you the 6 to 8 inch window to feed him his own face. Yeah. You kind of maintain that gap. Boom, boom, boom. You want to be causing great trauma to accurate places. So think about it. I've moved his head. That's one way, but there's no way for me to attack him. So gripping a lump of something, eye or nose, gives me this window here to really fuck him up. Give that a go. Tom's got me in a bear hug around the waist from behind. Okay? So he's got me like so. I must first make sure that I'm based. If I'm not based, I am doomed. There's not a huge amount I can do percussively here, but what I can do is start to snap. So what we're going to do, we must first take a seat. We must sit, because he will be moving and ragging and thrashing me around. So I need base. I need to isolate a little finger, but as importantly as grabbing the little finger, I need to secure this hand so that I can snap. And I can snap as many digits as I need to, but they don't snap unless I secure them here. Because Tom's a flexible man. If I just pull this, that's not really good. You know, I'd have to take it very far. He's a very flexible man. So what I have to do is pin, and what I might do with Tom, because he's quite flexible, is I might pin at the knuckle. Yeah, you feel? That was a good mini tap, I like that. Little tiny tap.
Yeah, I say jab, it's a bit stiff.
As you can see, so I've secured the hand. I might even secure it at the knuckle. Yeah. I am based and I will snap. And it's not using my arm strength, bending my knees, I'm dropping my weight down. Sure. So I'm snapping and cracking as much as I possibly can, and it's going to become very hard for this hold to be maintained. Okay? There's not much else I can do here without me sacrifice rolling to the floor, which is unlikely to end very, very quickly and revolves a lot of skill.
You work like that as well?
Yeah, exactly. So once you've got this, I need to secure. So as soon as I pin, peeling and snapping is easy. If I don't pin, if I just start to pull, it's not going to happen. But if I pin, yeah, it's going to come off.
Yeah.
So it's a very important thing to think about. Pin it,
Yeah.
snap it. Pin it, snap it, pull it apart. Treat it like a monkey that's pulling apart an exotic fruit. He's snapping it.
He's going character.
But importantly, I'm based. If I stand up,
Yeah.
I am going for a ride.
Yeah.
I need to be here, pin this, and then we're on.
Yeah.
Make sense? Slam, being able to throw, act as a weapon. These are important. These, just try and remember, if you can see it, snap it. If he can see it, gouge it. You know, you want to go for things that you can break with your hands. Things that you can break with your hands, with finger strength, are eyes, throats, groins, and fingers. All of these are snappable with your hands. Everything else requires leverage mechanizations. You need to be able to figure four it, bend it, twist it with some degree of physics. Whereas you can break, smash, maul with your own finger strength, fingers, eyes, throat, groin. These are things to remember. What can I break? What's possible to break? Sometimes it may come to pass that I am grabbed overarm. Here. Okay? Now again, job one is always be based, making sure I've got balance. Second, my chin, my head is wrestling. Do you see? My head can be part of this grapple as much as any arm. And then, using this hand, stay there mate, this hand's going for the bollocks. Yep. So I'm going to smash into the bollocks. It's going to be hit and grip. Yep. And I'm going to use that reflex to reach over with this arm. If I can pull it off, I will grab a bunch of face. I'm going to shunt to my arm because otherwise I'm going to hurt Tom, which I wouldn't mind doing otherwise. So once I've gone for the bollocks, this arm's gone over the top. I've pulled him, and I've smashed him with this. This makes sense? Yeah. So I've gone from overarms, I've based, and I've used my head to wrestle. I've not panicked, but I can't effectually hit from here. Knees to the groin is a big risk that I fall over, and he'll be trying to do the same to me. So I'm going to make sure my head wrestles. I'm going to smash at that groin. As I do this, I raise this arm up. So I've smashed at the groin, I've grabbed a bit of groin. I can grab ear, beard, hair, whatever, eyeball, whatever you can grab from here. Okay, I'm just going to be nice to Tom and just put it flat on my palm here. You pull his head up, exposing his throat, you could punch that throat, or you could feed him his own face. Either way, gets the job. Ready up?
Oh, this time, blitz through, do whatever you can. If you're not injured, do something else.
So in this instance, not bad. So we've done edge of hand blows. What I'm saying to the guys, this is important. I'm using the side of my body. Another reason why I might do that, come here, is that there may well be two opponents. So I might need to understand? So I might need to fight this way and this way. I'm not going to stay there forever. So once I've struck and hit, I'm probably going to try and line these guys up. But I need some survival mechanism for fighting people that are pincering. But in any case, I divert. The next technique we're going to do from subterfuge and from ballistic assault is the unattached chin jab. So we're going to use the hard bit of our palm and we're going to roll up and up and up, and then I want at the very end of the range a long range tiger claw. Feed him his own face. So as many as your flurry you want. These are tight and close, remember. Up, up, up. As many as you can fit in. Notice I'm moving. The last one, long range. Start from subterfuge, bang, 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 and then do a run up. Make sense?
Yep.
Make it happen. We're going to look at some more specialist. We're going to look at some more specialist World War II tools. We won't spend a huge amount of time on them because they're very intuitive and you should find it pretty easy to pick up. And we're going to be using poor old Murdoch over here, for example. So, first is this. This is a thumb knife. Comes in a leather sheath and you see it has holes here. And you would stitch this into clothing that best matched your cover. So if your cover was a Latvian typist, then in the things that you naturally wear in that role, you would have ways to secrete this in skirts, in a hem, you know, on an inner sleeve, in a lapel jacket.
Did you just assume that a Latvian typist wasn't automatically going to be female?
This is true.
No, he said in a dress.
Sorry, Yuri, you're my favourite Latvian typist.
Did you just assume that someone in the dress would be female?
Right. Ooh, don't you bring this shit to my DVD.
Go ahead.
All people were suitably punished hereafter.
Yes.
I'm trying to get us uncancelled for the comments yesterday.
Right, so you stitch this into your clothing. Sometimes you might be masquerading in blue collar roles, so again into overalls and other bits and pieces. But in either way, you've got this sheath here. Very simple tool. You pinch it between your thumb and your forefinger. You insert it into someone's eye or into the carotid artery, and you turn it like you were starting a car, because you want your exit wound to be bigger than your entry wound. Small entry wound, big exit wound. This is not a fight finishing tool in the main. It's still very hard to finish a fight with this, but it might be all you need to move up the weapons acquisition tree. So if this is all you're able to sneak into a place, this might be the thing that gives you enough pain and damage to take a pistol, to take a knife, to take a rifle, and do your business from there. But again, often these are weapons of last resort. You wouldn't, in any of these intelligence roles, be looking to fight a heavily armed German Wehrmacht soldier with a thumb knife. It'd be stupid. This is a last ditch weapon. And often it's to help you avoid things you might have had some degree of capture, early capture, where you've not been searched as thoroughly as you might be later on. So you might have had the pat down, they might realise there's no firearms on you or no overt blades. This might be the one thing that you've got, which you can use to cut bindings, you can use to cause some degree of pain and injury, to acquire something further up the weapons tree. So we're going to be having goes against Murdoch, but practice, eyes, throat. Notice again, athletic posture. You know, this may also come about as a result of a grapple. So if I'm with Tom and we're grappling here, we're mid-fight, and I might be a person that's smaller, weaker, whatever. By being able to access this from my inner sleeve within the grapple, I then might be able to find an easy way for me to engage. A smaller, weaker person, and you've got, you know, both all genders, all sizes, all shapes, all ages as part of this intelligence work. It's all got to work for everybody, or it doesn't work. being able to draw this from a useful position. You know, can you imagine if I'm a smaller, weaker person wrestling Tom, it's not going to last very long. But a smaller, weaker person that's just slotted this into Tom's neck, suddenly he's going to find himself an awful lot weaker, an awful lot disadvantaged. So it can also come to pass that once the fight is on or the arrest is on, you deploy this. Or, from a position of guile and subterfuge, it might already be in your hand. You might, again, straight up into here. And that might be all the distraction and pain I need to achieve his weapon and finish the job. This makes sense? So if you're using it, it's to escape, it's to get yourself out of a jam if it comes to a grapple, or it's to move my way up the weapon escalation tree. There's an important use of the thumb dagger. Then we move to these variations of sleeve knives. So often I say sleeve knives, so these could also be held down here, near or around the boot area, or inside or in certain pockets in the arms of your jacket. Again, very simple tool. This has a triangular style blade. So again, the wound on this does not heal very quickly. And more importantly, if it hits an arterial region, makes blood loss happen very fast because it's a broad tool. It goes in and it causes trauma. The trauma is exacerbated. And again, with these, they can be used in a forehand fashion. And again, everything you've done in your unarmed combatives, such as a tiger claw, all of the body motions are the same. So you're learning it only once. You know, your Fairburn lunge, only once. And again, just like the thumb knife, this can come out and be used as a tool, or it could come out as part of a grapple, as a grapple assist. I find that it makes a lot more sense as a grapple assist. That I've found myself being arrested, manhandled, shunted somewhere, captured by local police in the World War II concept. It might be Vichy France. You're being taken away somewhere. The ability to just take this out of a sleeve and go in. You'll also note that the length of blade is pretty much synonymous with the fighting knife itself. So anything you've learned about distances, penetration, applies to this. What it does not do is cut. It does not cut, but if it were to cut, it would have to be broader, and therefore it's less concealable. So you've lost the ability to cut, you've maintained the ability to thrust, but you've done so because of the concealability of this. So as part of the drill, we're going to do a couple of things. We're just going to get used to... Right, one of the most commonly issued close combat weapons of World War II for clandestine units was actually the Garrote. So while we look at things like the thumb knife and the lapel dagger, and they've all got certain appeal, they also rumble you, very obviously. And that if you are caught and that is found, any protestation that you're not a spy is pretty much blown. You've got no chance of explaining away why you've got a small dagger sewn into the side of your jacket. Yeah. But when it comes to things like auxiliary units for SOE, often they were equipped with a Thompson submachine gun. They were equipped with a 2.2 rifle, scoped rifle, suppressed. They were equipped with a load of Kosh's, truncheons, Fairburn sights, fighting knives, and pretty much unanimously the Garrote. And we're going to go through some methods of garroting, solo and in pairs. And much like the knife and much like the Kosh, its job is to do things quickly and silently. Its weakness is that because my hands are occupied, my ability to stop sound escaping from a person is less. And whilst it's hard to make a noise when you've got this around your throat, it's not impossible. So that's one thing to bear in mind. That's one weakness of the tool. But an advantage of the tool is that a garrote can be held pretty much innocuously because all you need is a ligature and two solid items. You don't need to have it configured as a garrote. You can have this, a separate bit of string, shoelace. You could small hard items. You could pick up 2 sticks from the ground and you could make a garrote very, very quickly. So it's something you can make in the field, you can assemble in the field. It's non-threatening and it's low noise. So we're going to look at some simple ways it's working. We're going to do this very, very carefully. So if I could borrow you, Janos, because you have a great demonstration neck. Okay, so first we're going to look at how to do this in pairs. Borrow you, Jez. And I'm going to talk you through it because obviously Jez doesn't know what's happening either. But in this method, we're going to use the same prowl. In the 2-man method, I am going to loop. I am going to constrict by crossing my arms. but Jez is going to pick up both of Janos's legs. Yeah. You lift him up to the ground, where I can fulfill the choke because I have positional dominance here. So by taking both legs to the ground, we've lowered our silhouette, we've lowered our profile. If you look around here, this is a clearing, but in that bracken, you disappear fast. So our business is concluded here because this may take up to 30 seconds to a minute for Janos to die. Yeah. It needn't always be lethal too. You could apply this for 15 odd seconds, they'll be out long enough for you to get something and be gone. Yeah. So your partner takes his legs, brings him to the ground. The garroting party only really begins their garrote phase once down. Does this make sense? And the pressure, you notice that I'm maintaining, any of you done karate, jiu-jitsu, this leg is here, so I've got stable base to exert muscular and structural presence. Okay? There you go. Let him back up, it's all right. That's method 1. Method 2, in fact I'll borrow Jez for this. Method 2 is we loop, we turn our back, like so, and we do this. Now, 2 schools of thought. First school of thought is that I fulfill the choke standing. And you'll notice that this scissors and I roll. But the problem is that unless I'm very strong, any small turning of Jez and I fail to fulfill. A better use of this is almost like a sacrifice throw. So I do a Jon Snow and I bend the knee. Here. And then I can fulfill. So I'm using this as a reverse throw. So the back-to-back method throws him to the ground. Again, low shape, low silhouette, can't really be seen if I'm in the bracken. I can fulfill this and note this leg. Structural dominance over Jez. I need to be able to push and pull. Another important tip or technique is that I don't just have to rely on the ligature. My bony forearm and wrist is much broader, denser and stronger than that ligature. So I might use one half of the ligature and the other half being my forearm in the same way as a scissor choke. So I use, and this might expedite removal of oxygenated blood to his brain because I'm using a broad, hard, dense surface. I'm also, in this method, you'll note if I just squeeze this, it requires some strength. Here, with my fist depressed against Jez's face, you turn your face, very hard to do. If I do this, turn your face, yeah, you can manipulate your head. So while they seem like small details, I might take to the ground, just give a little short, sharp dig, pap. This structure now, even if I'm the weaker party, is very strong. Once the head is turned, I could, with a little finger, maintain, because I've got leverage. Does this make sense? Yeah. So, the back-to-back method, just get up a second, mate. The back-to-back method, yes, you could feasibly fulfill it, like so. But there is lots of risk. Whereas if I take the knee, and I'm going to do so gently, why do I keep one foot like this, like you were doing with Brett in the shooting? To push off. To push off, I can exert downward force because I've got this foot, so I can push off the ground. So another untalked about tool of World War II combatives is blunt instruments, and there are many, many, many benefits for using something like this over and above something which is sharp. First of all, like we talked about, accuracy is really important with a bladed article. It will either get an artery or it will not. And if it doesn't, that man will scream and he will fight and he will kick and he will try and stab you back and all sorts of bad things will happen. With a blunted weapon, be it a full truncheon like so, rubber truncheons were common in World War II, small koshes, saps and the like, these weighted heavy weapons, you can get a knockout very, very quickly. And often the knockout is all that's needed. For a lot of the close combat of World War II, the objective often isn't to kill a person. If anything, it's better to not kill a person. The point is to do a thing very quietly, to plant bombs quietly, to take intelligence quietly, to escape quietly. Everything should be quiet. And these are very quiet tools. And no matter where I hit with this, in the region of Tom's head, and it doesn't require much training at all to pull this off. He will go down and go down pretty quietly, especially as a surprise. So we're going to be looking at some of the different attributes of different koshes and different weapons and how they work and how we can deploy them. So we're going to start with a longer truncheon format. And we're going to look at how we could potentially deploy this. I'll start with the Fairbairn method of affixing the truncheon. And it goes like this. Thumb in, cordage around the back of the hand, weapon in the hand. Because then if someone seizes the end of the truncheon, pulls, I retain using the strongest bit of my hand, my thumb, that truncheon. And I can claim it back and I can fight over it, or I have tactile awareness of what this truncheon is doing. So through the loop, and the back, in the hand. Solid way to grip the truncheon. It's stupid that we don't have this now. Fairbairn also talks about, especially in China, use silk cord. And you could tie prisoners, you could apply tourniquets, you could do lots of stuff using your handy bit of what today would be like tactical paracord or something. Yeah, makes sense. So we're going to look at some of the ways in which we could use this. I would just dangle this with one hand and just hold a firm grip. So, first we'll look at methods of subterfuge. This is where he does not know there is a weapon in ploy. So, an easy method for this is the under armpit carry, because you can walk around as the grey man. You can walk around being sickly, ill, tired, scared, and you can hide a pretty decent weapon from this. But notice, I'm not standing here because it's not stupid. You will see this sticking out. My right shoulder, my weapon bearing shoulder, that's the thing that's presented to you. Is it easy for you to see the weapon? No, you can't see the weapon at all. And so we're going to do, essentially, those of you who were here yesterday, all of Fairbairn's unarmed and armed stuff comes from the same core. You guys will see it as a shooter strike. We call it an edge of hand blow. But this methodology is the same as the knife methodology, is the same as the truncheon methodology. So you only need to learn a body mechanic once. So from a position of subterfuge, we ask our leading question and we strike. Quite simple. But notice that the hip, so I break this down in two per slow-mo, I've transferred the weight from here. And I find myself still in this athletic posture. I've not ended up flat-footed. I've ended up like a sprinter, in that I can move through Tom and do the business. He is in my railway tracks. And so even if I had no skill but to just bum rush him and smash into him, my legs are inclined for me to do that. So from a position of subterfuge, you've got things like this. Walking closer, get as close as I can, ask the leading question, and venomously explode. And thinking about your targeting along the jawbone, it doesn't require much strategy. What does require strategy is using the weapon in open play. So if I've had to draw or use this weapon because he has a weapon. So if Tom has a weapon, Tom's got a weapon, I should have my weapon foremost in front of me because I need to fight with this. If Tom didn't have a weapon, or there was more than one person, let me just borrow you, if there's more than one person, my baton goes from here to here. Because I might need to fend off your rush, your attack. Bang, bang. I might need to use this hand to afford me the space to do my business. If I was to hold the weapon foremost and fight multiples, you know, and hit you, I can hit you, but then this is collapsed. This is a collapsed structure. So it's a pretty important thing. It's not so much a technique thing, but Tom's got weapon out. You know to have your weapon in front, because a bit like, and again, this is where the synergy of the system comes in. I've got a blunt weapon, but my principles are still the same. Hands, eyes. Yeah. Good. Do it again. But you get the idea, in that I don't need to unlearn or relearn or change my process in any way. I know that I have to do this. I know that this is important. My only difference is my finish. Jace, I'll borrow you. So, you'll have subtly had this stick in conversation, you'd have kept his attention up top. You'd brought it across, either to the liver or spleen, depending on which hand you're starting with, and up, and you'd have driven that with the same force as a boxer's hook and uppercut. But sometimes people act unpredictably. So if I hit across his body, he might move back, he might lean back, there might be some reason why this goes tits up and I miss him. Or, alternatively, I've not got the throat, I've just clipped the chin, which will hurt, but might not put him down and put him out. So now I've got to a position where my stick is pre-armed up, because you should have done this with enough welly that if you missed, you know, if it's not gone up, you've not put enough force into it in the first place. Okay? So what we're going to do now, we immediately need to keep the offense on the man. So I can't reset, I can't do much about it, I need to put force onto him. So my next bit of force, I'm going to use the top portion of the stick, and I'm going to rake this down. Now this can go across the head, across the eye. This is not going to be a man stopper. This is quickly to rip down his face, because I have fucked up here and I need to keep offensive momentum. So I've gone here, I've missed. Combatively now, this is the best primed weapon for me. So we're going to go down the face, then we use the rear part of the weapon, and we're going to come up. Now sometimes you hit with a stick and sometimes you hit with a loaded fist. You hit with the fist, but the fist with the stick in it is a solid structure. It's a very good striking tool. So we've missed, we've come down, we've hit. I tend to prefer this with the knuckles and the bottom of the stick, but you can use that as your own discretion. And you hit. And then finally, with the stick in two hands, we drive and bar it into the throat. So the sequence as a whole is hit. This would be ideal, this would probably end it, but let's say I've missed. So then my next three moves in sequence are down across the face, up into the jaw or into the throat or behind the ear, whatever you get. You can't really aim this when you're going full pelt. You just know that this is coming round. And then we're driving this. And depending on where their body is and how their body reacts to the stick, it may be that the stick is coming up or it may be that the stick is coming out. Really that depends on the human that you've just hit, how big they are compared to you, how small they are compared to you.
Or down.
Yeah, or down. Across, up, down, up, up. And you'll notice that my body, my foot is going through his legs, smashing through him here. I want to take his breath, I want to crush his larynx, I want to really cause him some damage, but I also want to knock him down. So even if I do not major damage, but I can knock him on his arse, I can Michael Flatley his head, which will put him out. So either way, I want to make sure that I've got this penetrative step. And you'll note that much of World War II and World War I combatives is boxing and wrestling at its very core. So, you know, if I was going to take him on a double leg takedown, I would have a penetrative step here. If I was going to take his balance, I would have this step anyway. But in this instance, I don't have to, so I've got the stick to ram into the throat. So practice that, change your partners across the body, but now you've missed. Down, up, drive. So that's a little bit about stick fighting with multiples. You need to be aggressive, you need to be dominant, you need to move, you need to flank, you need to look like someone that's not to be fucked with. It's very, very important. So just to re-demonstrate, if I could borrow you two. These two people will swarm me very quickly if I'm timid. If I allow this to happen, I will get swarmed. Don't swear that. What I need to do is constantly make them fear. Go on, fucking have it! Go on! You need to move. If you get to a point where you're very close, your strikes need to be even more aggressive. I can't just poke him, I need to ram a new hole in his head. This is very important. The aggression, the intent, the look, the feel, the sound, what you say, who you are, these are very important in using a stick in a combative way. But now we're going to look at some sentry elimination drills using the stick, just because it's fun. Come on, boy. So, easy sentry elimination drills. In the American Marine method, you've already got the stick this way. So what you're going to do is maintain a low crouch. Moving silently is predicated on using the edge of your foot and then rolling it to the flat of your foot. Edge of the foot, roll, edge, roll. I place this across his neck this way, and a join. Now, as important as the pressure of the stick on his throat is the pressure of my forearms on the side of his neck. So I want to make sure that I can get as much blood, which is the side, and air, which is the front, as possible. If I just pull, it's air, and he can survive that. If I just squeeze, it's blood, and he can survive that. We want to stop the air crushing the front, and stop the blood crushing the side. And at that juncture, you've got a couple of options. You can either pull him completely back, and I'll do this softly because it will hurt Tom, but I literally pull down and yank. But think of me pulling the stick to my hips, here. And then I'm looking to fulfill the choke from a position of dominance, here. Because I'm a button, so I can fulfill this. Yeah, because his back's against me. So I've got leverage here. I can fulfill it standing up by crunching down on the back of his knee and doing it this way, but there is some chance I may topple, or I may use this to kick and stamp but not hold, like so. So I remain standing and I pull and squeeze, but bear in mind the pressure should always be to the sides as well as the front. That's one method of sentry elimination. You walk with your feet in a silent way, sides of your feet, sides, sole, sides, sole. Sneak this round, grab and pressure on the sides. That's one method. Another method, which is a lot more hilarious, is this. Not the tom. Is that I take a lump of shoulder, I drive the stick through, and this is a strike. Yep, so I've hit him in the bollocks. I've turned and I've pulled and I've pushed, like so. Now the benefit of this is if Tom's holding a rifle, he will have dropped said rifle. So we'll do it at slow time. So I'll have dropped, and I've smashed him right in the bollocks. Turned, I pull this into me and push him down. Then, boosh, stamp, stab, whatever. But the important thing is that most human instinct is to stop the fall, not protect the rifle. So, as far as he's concerned, he's just thinking about next half an hour when he's going to have his fag break. I want him thinking that way, and the next thing he knows, his face is hurtling towards the floor. His human instinct will be to put his hands down. Even if his rifle is with him, his body will be on top of his rifle, allowing me the time necessary to stamp, stab, kosh, do other stuff. That's a lower percentage takedown or sentry elimination than the stick across the throat. The stick across the throat is quick, clean and effective. Give both of those a go. And also practice walking silently. Can you do it without breaking twigs? Alright, so that was the fair burn method, using two hands on the stick in an assault-like fashion. Tom, I'll borrow you. What we're going to look at now is a system, how the American Marines did it. So if you just put the knife down. So, American Marine system in the Pacific Theatre. You've got the stick, and you're holding the stick against the forearm. And protruding, you've got 2 to 3 inches of stick. And this works on the assumption that when two humans fight, they come to a grapple or a grapple range very fast. If you imagine in the Pacific Theatre, you've got island storming. You've got a bunch of young Marines running up a beachhead against a load of Japanese. You're going to end up it's going to be like British Bulldog. You're going to be smashing into each other. So there's not even that much room to use it in the fair burn fashion. But I've got the stick very, very tight. So we come to this crash, just be human dummy for now. We've got the stick in this fashion, and we're going to use it in a boxing-like format. So we're going to use it to jab at the throat, solar plexus, groin, liver, spleen, kidneys, base of the neck. You're using this as the weapon. The good thing about this is it's a very intuitive platform. If you spend much of your time training unarmed, you could be pop, bang. You know, you could be hook, uppercut. Anything you can do in a boxing format, you can do with this stick. And most people spend most of their unarmed time in something that replicates this. Especially in World War II, boxing being a much more mainstream sport then, it's much more familiar to people. So the American Marine method is to have it like so, and being used to, again, combative wrestling, boxing style footwork, whether it's on the front foot or the back foot. Typically, this is held in the hand that's adjacent to the back foot. So it's here. So I use this hand to fend, to grab, to pull, to push, to block, to do stuff, poke him in the eyes, whatever. This hand delivers the shot. If I manage to parry, delivers the shot, delivers the shot. So it comes in this format. If we're a bit longer range and his hands are coming out, I may decide to snap at them with the stick here. This does have some risk. So you will snap up or snap round towards the head. But it can be a good man mover. So you might go snap, snap, fingers, jab, and you come straight in. You've got options. Think of it exactly like boxing. I might use that as a jab. I might use that as a jab. Eventually, I might do a combination to allow me to do something, to take that range. Or, shit or bust, we've just run at each other, bang! You know, I need to be able to use the stick at hyper close range, using this American Marine method. So, first things first, I just want you to get used to the grip, the support. Then you've got your attacks, which are flicks, up and round. I don't like these too much because there is a risk of catching. If you do them, you have to be scary. I always say go for eyes. Whoa.
Yeah, that one.
Makes people move, makes people fear. Eyes and throat are the only real targets for these type. In the videos you see people go for hands. The problem is, if I go for his hand and he's clever, now it's our stick, not my stick. So get used to this kind of stuff towards the eyes. Using the lead hand could grab, grapple, gouge, close the distance, and you can use the stick in any number of ways. Placement's important, targeting's important. People have got webbing, people have got ammunition pouches, people have got radios, people have got stuff. Where stuff typically isn't, it's in the throat, in the eyeball, and the kidneys. You've also got to look for gaps. It's like, you know, it's like shellfish. You're prizing open the gaps in what's available. That's that method. The footwork's important. It's got to be athletic. It's got to be strong. My feet are facing. We are fighting. Knife, fists, sticks, same. I am fighting Tom. So we're here. It's not the stick that's fighting Tom. It's me that's fighting Tom. So all of me's fighting him. You know, I might fake a boot at his knee. Bam! Do this. All of me. I might fake that boot, finger his eyes, and do that. You've got all of your body's the weapon. This isn't the weapon. It's just a stick. It's an important thing to bear in mind. But the American method for the Marines is based on this. The short, sharp strikes and using your entire body to get in and do some damage. Have a go at that. Stick versus an arm, and then stick versus knife. If he's got the knife, this is a much more dangerous platform now. So this is where the American system changes. The American system then changes in two parts. It can be two-handed, and they tend to hold the stick at either end like so, much like we were doing. Getting to a point where you can make space, make room, and strike with the stick. So it's quite similar to what we were doing with the Fairburn system. You're being aggressive, tucking it out. When the opportunity arises, you might start to do some stuff. Or they go for a single-handed weapon forward. When you're fighting a man that's got a weapon, typically put your weapon forward, because the weapon is the dangerous thing. When you're fighting an unarmed person or a group of unarmed people, the weapon tends to be at the back, because his job will be to close me down and grapple me. He'll want this. So I need to make sure this is far enough away. I can use my other hand and then use it. So if you're against a knife, the American method goes from this to this, bang, or to a single-handed. But importantly, for them, they're always moving. They're always chopping and hacking and striking at the bony parts of the wrist, the elbow, collarbone, head, kneecap. Anything that's bony is a good target for this type of weapon. But for now, practice it against unarmed in this method, then armed this method or this method. Give it a go. But we'll just get into whacking stuff because it's fun. So we'll start off with that. I just want to start you off in a little bit of an aggression drill. We're going to move more into the technical elements of Fairburn stick and some of the way sticks were used by US Marines as well. But we're going to just start off with a little bit of a warm-up drill just to get the blood pumping a little bit. It's the most basic, intuitive weapon a man can find. You can find it anywhere, you can find them all around here, so it's a good place to start. I also sparred a lot yesterday and completely fucked my elbow, so I'm going to wait as long as possible to do the unarmed stuff. So there's bias to using this stick. Right, so what we're going to do, just as a non-technical aggression drill, we're going to have two volunteers. 2 volunteers. Like that, like that. Right. A lot of the time you see the World War II stick stuff and it's quite static. It's quite close, you're using the stick, but it comes from a point of non-aggression, it comes from a point of stealth. For this little bit of a warm-up exercise, I just wanted to get you using it a bit more aggressively, because it may well be that you need to close the range down against a superior weapon. So you need to move fast, you need to move hard, you need to use this weapon nastily. So Tom, if I just borrow you for a second, you can put your stick down, as much as it made you feel like a Roman legionary. All I want you to do, in 2 lines, I want you to get up a decent run. I want you to keep the stick into your body. As you get close to Tom, I don't want the stick out because then you have to charge the stick. Does that make sense? So you are running like the clappers at Tom. Your stick is held close to you crosswise across your body. As you get close to Tom, I want you to drive this stick in, and then we're going down, we're going up, drive again and move off and rejoin the line, if that makes sense. There'll be a line of people behind you. Run as fast as you can, smash it out. The top end of the stick goes down, the bottom of the stick goes up. We finish with a final shove and then we move. Just nice and simple. Just get the aggression out, get used to moving, get the blood flowing, but you're trying to crash into him and move as much as you can. Try and couch it here. The reason why it goes this way is it gives me maximum usage of the stick against his body. And if he turns his body somewhat, because it's going diagonal, it'll always catch him. If I go too low or too high with it horizontal, it won't move his body in the way I want. So I want to move his body. I want to smash him out of the way. So 2 lines in the clearing, padman at either end of the line.
Jam.
Going this way, just over this way.
Yeah.
Marcus,
So 2 lines.
Yeah, okay.
So you understand the drill? You've got two feasible lines. Charge, keep it close. Smash, down, up, bar, move back round to the end of your line. So wait. Go. And round, be ready to go immediately.
safety one, so I'm using
You need to do one more. Oh, at the end.
Okay, put a bit more sauce on it now, be a bit more aggressive.
That's it, Mark.